Hey Sagittarius, so this is the 2-week forecast taking you from the full moon in your sign, in the sign of Sagittarius, right the way through to the new moon in Cancer on the 25th of June. Now, Jupiter is your ruling planet, and just recently, like literally just moments, it seems like just moments ago anyway, Jupiter went into the sign of Cancer. So it's your ruling planet changing signs. Your ruling planet doesn't change signs that often, just over once a year. And so this is pretty special, I think, from your perspective. It also represents you kind of coming up, you're lifting up a little bit. It's also going into a sign that's exalted, which is, I think, very beneficial. I should say I'm a Sagittarius, by the way. So yeah, this is an interesting time. Jupiter is definitely the man of the match in terms of, out of all the planets, he seems to just have his fingers in all the pies. He's in all of the most interesting and most stressful connections in this 2-week forecast. So there's a lot going on. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Louisa Tanner Munson. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. The whole purpose of me doing this, I think, is to sort of deep dive into the planetary patterns in such a way that you feel like, there's a bit of space, there's a bit of possibility. You know, I think astrology can sometimes feel a little bit oppressive. You know, it can feel like, oh, this is definitely going to happen. Watch your back. You know, and I don't want it to be like that. I really want it to kind of drill down into inner psychologies, help you see where maybe you're holding yourself back, or maybe where, I don't know, there's all sorts of things going on. And, you know, in my last release about the full moon in Sagittarius, I called it Stop Looping, Start Choosing, because it appears that during this time we're all going around these really tight emotional loops, and it feels like we've got no choice but to feel the things we're feeling. And yet it's creating a sense of fear, it's creating a sense of confusion. Jupiter's in a square to Saturn and Neptune, and they are absolutely showing massive distortions at the moment. You know, we want to be really clear about what's going on in the world, and yet it feels like this is massive distortion. Who knows what's causing that? But to me, it feels quite confusing. In fact, you'll see it in the description below, but I've written a little bit about this period of time, and I really think there's like a dreamlike haze of this Saturn. I'm looking at my screen above, my Saturn Neptune energy. It's a feeling of doubt, a sense of, why didn't I see this before? Like things are happening suddenly, and we're getting this sense of, oh my God, that's new. Like, where did that come from? Yeah, I think from the full moon to the new moon, what's really happening is we've got this a sense of a new gentleness, a sense of a new choice point. It feels very delicate, but yeah, we're definitely working towards something really big. If this is the first time you checked out my forecasts, I use a whole sign Western tropical model for my astrology. So if you have been learning in whole sign, you see your chart in whole sign, this will make complete sense. You know, just look at your ascendant. You can also listen to your sun as well, but most people look at their ascendant sign. And you know, I've got Scorpio rising. However, because I prefer Placidus, and you might prefer a Placidus charting method. If you do, then you should always listen to your ascendant and the following sign. So for instance, I'm a Scorpio rising, but I listen to Sagittarius too, because with a Placidus model, you have both of those star signs in your first house. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that makes it a bit clearer if you're in doubt. But anyway, let's have a look at these charts. So there's going to be 2 charts that I'm looking at, the full moon one and the new moon one. And in fact, I've also done an all sign. Sorry, I've got loads of material that I think can help, but I have also done an all sign forecast for this period that goes even deeper into these aspects. But I want to keep this as short as possible. So just before I bring up these charts, I'm just going to have a quick shout out to the people that support this channel. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Okay, so here's the first chart. So the full moon in Sagittarius, you can see it's in your first sign, in your first house, sorry. It feels very, very real. Often we feel very emotional and hyper emotional. At these times, we can get really stirred into things. So watch out for that. The sun is in the 7th house, which is really showing that it's kind of interesting. We're feeling so emotional, and yet when we look around at the people around us, they're kind of slightly calm and probably looking at us and saying, what's going on? You know, what's going on with this person who is just full of emotions, full of old patterns and stuff. And so uh, the first thing I would say is I think it's good to hang around with people who are a little bit more steady. If you've got steady people around you, that's so good. Now, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with this full moon in Sagittarius, which I spoke about in depth in my full moon video. But as we go through this week, you'll see the moon is coming around this edge of our charts. And the sun is also moving forwards, and then they come together just where Mercury is here. You'll see that Mercury is going to move from here to here in this 2-week cycle. So let's have a look at the new moon chart. You'll see the moon's gone around, the sun's around, Jupiter's there, Mercury's there. So there's a lot going on in the 8th house of your chart, which is, the 8th house of the chart, I think, is very much about other people's values and resources that you are sharing with them. So when we think about other people's values, I could shorthand it and say other people's judgments. That's probably a more accurate way of saying it, because you've got judgments on the people around you, they've got judgments on you, and you have expectations on each other. And we often fail at each other's expectations and cause misery for each other. We don't mean to, but we kind of fall into these patterns. And so I think this new moon in Cancer is going to bring a lot of gentleness and a sense of hope, a sense of optimism, that some of this old stuff can just fall away because it's not really serving you anymore. And I think this is one of the big things with this full moon in Sagittarius, because, the moon is really connecting to the South Node, really showing that a lot of your feelings, possibly about insecurity, about not being at the top, or having been feeling like you were at the top of the tree and maybe your position in life now doesn't feel quite so elevated. There's a bit of stress there that keeps popping up. And then the sun is mostly aligned with the North Node, and is working with the North Node. And so, there's this sort of like this desire right now to be cool with your partners and feeling the sense of connection. And there's this sense that it's all about the home, that there is a real need for you to feel safe and secure at home. So to me, anywhere where you're worrying about your career and worrying about your status in life is taking you out of the present moment, which is bringing you to your safety in your home with the people that you love around you. And I'm hoping for you and for me that during this period of time, you're coming round to recognizing that the safety is something that you build, and you might need to change some of your belief systems to be able to reach that sense of safety, because this part of the chart really shows all the ancestral stuff. It reminds me of, and I mentioned this in the full moon video, but what's his name? Oh, crikey, I've forgotten his name now. The guy who talks about trauma. Hang on, I need to pause this and I'll come back to you 1 second. Okay, I found it. It is Gabor Mate that I wanted to mention. So like Gabor Mate, he talks and he says, where your ancestors have had trauma, that changes the DNA. It's changing the signature that you're inheriting through your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, into your children, for instance. So there's like this collective trauma. And I really do think that there's this, there's this collective trauma that we may well be holding on to that's actually not our pattern anymore. We've taken our share of it, but actually we've still got the emotions of the trauma going on and it feels like it's ours, and yet it might have belonged to our ancestors. And let's not forget, there's also real anxiety and insecurities that have come from our parents acting up, and sort of early examples of authority figures and what they've said, like things from school, your local environment, all of these things. There's always going to be some fallout. But to me right now, the big work for you, or me, since I'm there as well, there's a new moon in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter's there. It is opening us. It's really opening us in a new way. Excuse me. Jupiter's the ruler of your chart. He's also the ruler of your home as well. So this is about your identity and your home and your feelings of safety. Now he is connecting with the sun and the moon in the sign of Cancer, and he's going to be there for quite some time. And everything that has felt not good, everything that's felt like unpleasant, difficult, throughout of all of the different parts of life, like whether you're birthing, whether you're there are people around you dying, you know, through all the cycles of life, everything that has come up that's been uncomfortable. Jupiter, he's the planet of goodwill. He's the planet of feeling good. He is there to help you feel better. Sorry, I'm just going through a coughing fit here, so please excuse me if this sounds like I've stopped it. It's because I have tried to like cut the massive coughs out, and I may well still cough. But yeah, to me, and this is like the moving of emotion, isn't it? You know, I always think that's interesting. You know, when I have a coughing fit and I'm talking about something, you know, is there some truth? Is there something coming up? And you know, Jupiter here, like this part of the chart, is very much about secrets, what we've kept hidden. And you know, lots of people will say, oh, it's about birth, life, death, and taxes. It does, you know, like taxes, loans, any other sort of financial thing where you've got some kind of judgment by other people, you know, where there is something connecting people in one of these relationships that might not always feel that comfortable. There are all these parts of us that have shame, blame, guilt, and anger, these hidden emotions, these emotions that we try and like keep hidden, like nothing to see here. Jupiter, he is coming in there with his big old expansive energy, loaded with compassion because it's in the sign of Cancer. And then the new moon, this is all about bringing this up. So a bit like, sorry, the image I had in my mind there is like when you've got a baby and they've got trapped wind and you're helping them burp it up. It's like stuff that needs a little bit of tapping. It needs a little bit of help. You can't do it on your own, you know. And so you know, how do people help you with that? Well, they come in and they show you your triggers. And so I do think during this time, anywhere where you've really ignored old patterns, they're more likely to be triggered by the people around you. And if you can recognize that, so you know that you can see it as information, even when things feel a bit inflamed, I think things can really help and heal. And of course, the more you look at your own stuff, the less you'll find you're triggered by other people. So this is the start of something really big. Now, I know it doesn't sound probably that exciting. I can understand that, you know, being a Sagittarius myself, but this is also about starting a new story for yourself. You know, Mercury through here and Jupiter at the start, they're both together. In the sign of Cancer, the stories that we create are like our new hero's journeys. You know, we are like almost changing the track that we're on. Do you know how strong a new story is going to be for you? So this isn't about I need to let go of this trauma from this time or this, you know, this is more about as I let go of things, my new future is unfolding in front of me, and there's a whole new story. You know, it's not about like letting go of something and staying in that same energy. This is giving you promise. And then where the next new moon will be and the next position that Jupiter will go into will be in the 9th house. And the 9th house is about letting go of it. The 9th house is about the big release where you think, oh my God, thank God I've been through that. Now I've got this adventure. I've got this vista. I can see things much more clearly now without my trigger glasses that I've been viewing life from and through. So this is amazing. This is such a big time. So yeah, I wonder what you're going to do with it. Now, during this time, there are some very eggy bits, some very sort of like sticky parts. And there are some heroes of the piece as well. And I just want to talk a little bit about those. So for instance, it's worth being very, very careful around the 15th to the 22nd. During that time, we've got a massive thing with Jupiter going on. Jupiter is having his last square with Saturn. This has been going on since August. But this is the last like meet up between Jupiter and Saturn. And, you know, it's like they've been wanting to punch each other's lights out. One's very big and larger than life, and the other is very kind of analytical and calm and traditional and cool. And the Jupiter one is like, come on, let's get things done, let's change. And then there's this, so there's like these two sides of you, or two sides that you're seeing in humanity right now, where there's this strong and stoic side, and then this like more radical side that is more wanting to change things. And I can see that applies to all different types of politics right now around the world, from, you know, from as I see them reported. There's also, and I'll show you here in this chart, a big square between Mars and Uranus. You know, so Uranus is I think this is showing where there's some disruptions in your life and disruptions in your work, and the irritation that comes up that you can't really plan anything because, you know, Uranus is kind of mucking up your schedule a little bit. There's lots of exciting new flows coming in. And of course, that's the kind of stuff that helps to burp up those triggers. But Mars in the 9th house, you know, you're wanting to take action and move and feel free. And yet there are these annoying, irritating, surprising new changes at home. And so, yeah, these are really creating this sort of like feeling of tension. Then Mars is going into Virgo. He's going to be at the top of your chart. I'll just move this along. And then I think you're going to really want to be moving forwards with your career, and taking a stand, you know, feeling like an empowered adult, you know, really knowing who you are and really feeling it. However, there are more squares coming. You know, Jupiter, it will be in a square with Neptune. Then the Sun and the Moon are also going to have their squares with Saturn and Neptune. And so this Saturn-Neptune area, which I've described, and you'll see this in my notes if you have a look, it's like a dreamlike haze. There's a doubt. There's a sense of, why didn't I see this before? You know, so Saturn and Neptune is really showing where there's a distortion of reality. You know, and it's quite surprising, you know, because we don't realize that reality is being quite distorted. And you know, as each day passes, I think we're learning, oh my God, that was distorted too. What the hell? You know, so I think we're realizing that there have been so many distortions. I really think from, you know, before COVID, in fact, I would say there's been distortions all the way through, you know, my life, and I'm born in the 70s. I think in the 80s, lots of things have come up. Maybe it's, you know, with the amount of news reporting and the different sort of fluidity with it, and also the people that own these, you know, all of these organizations that we get our information from. It's not just news, it's social media, it's everywhere. So we are living in times of distortion. And I think a lot of the tension we're feeling right now is because we're seeing things as a result of distortion. And we also don't know if the things we're seeing are also distorted. So it's like, what can you trust? And the answer to this is the only thing you can trust is yourself, which is why letting go of all these inner hurts is so vital right now. So you are on a path to greater clarity for sure, and a greater sense of release. And I actually think after this pass of Jupiter through the sign of Cancer, you're going to have shaken free so many of these old traumas, old patterns and triggers, that your life is going to open up so much more. So I'm going to leave that there for you. I hope that was helpful. A little bit longer than I was expecting it to be. If you want a deeper dive, I've got a membership where you can get romance readings, and also money, career, ambition readings. I do them every 2 weeks when I do these forecasts. There's also daily forecasts as well, and meetups and things like that. If that's of interest, all the details are below. There's also a WhatsApp service that you can use if you want to get not 3, 5 free questions. Just look for the link in my description field, click on that, and Bob's your uncle. If you'd like me to take a good look at your chart and see what's going on for you, then again, all you need to do is click on one of the links below where I have my booking details. So there you go. I hope, you know, whatever happens, you're able to access a sense of peace and grace and majesty as you go through these times. I think you will. You are on a path, I think, heading for much more release and greatness than you realize. So I'm going to leave that there. Loads and loads of love to you, Saggy, and catch you real soon. Bye for now.